All right, welcome back. Anybody that comes in, I'm just gonna get right to it. I'm not gonna do any openings or nothing. Before I go into this debate, that be honest, I don't think either person won because for the established clause of how this debate was even handled was it wasn't on a neutral platform. There's no moderator, and it was to have the person who Mooncakes was debating concede. So Zach would have had to concede to this debate. Anyway, there's rules for debate. One rule is that there are two teams, each consisting of 2 to 3 speakers. Each team has 2 or 3 constructive speeches and 2 to 3 rebuttal speeches. The affirmative gives the first constructive speech, and the rebuttal, see alternate negative, affirmative, negative, affirmative. The affirmative has both the first and last speeches of the debate. When worded as a proposition of policy, the topic requires the affirmative to support some specified action by a particular individual or group. The affirmative has the right to make any reasonable definition of each of the terms of the proposition if the negative challenges the reasonableness of a definition by the affirmative. The judge must accept the definition of the team that shows better grounds for its interpretation of the term. So there's no judges. It is an extremely biased platform. The affirmative must advocate everything required by the topic itself. No revision of position of a team is permitted during the debate. He who asserts the most proof in order to establish an assertion, the team must support it with enough evidence and logic to convince an intelligent but previously uninformed person that it is more reasonable to believe the assertion than to disbelieve it. Facts must be accurate. Visual materials are permissible, and once introduced, they become available for the opponents. In the questioning period, the questioner may ask any fair, clear question that has a direct bearing on the debate. The questioner may use the period to build up any part of his own case, to tear down any part of his opposition's case, or to assert facts, such as opposition position on a certain issue that can be used later in the debate. The questioner must confine himself to question and not mistake statements, comments, or rhetorical questions. Each speaker is questioned as soon as he concludes his constructive speech. The witness must answer the question without consulting his colleagues. No new constructive argument may be introduced in the rebuttal period. The affirmative must, if possible, reply to major negative arguments before the last rebuttal. The judge must base their decision entirely on material presented, without regard for other material which has happened to possess. Any gains made outside of the established are disallowed. Also, I believe speaking time. Each speaker gets 3 to 8 minutes. But I never heard of a debate going more than 8 minutes per individual. So let's begin.
It does the things that you say it does. And so I guess for me, I kind of have an interest in debunking. some of those parts of gematria. It reminds me of like astrology.
Okay, perfect, because we'll bring those things together here in a minute. So these things that I say it does that you don't think it does, what would those things be, for example?
So for example, like predicting future events, being able to like confirm confirm like gambling winnings, or like telling you like for example, I use sports betting as an example, that like this team's going to win over this team. I just don't believe it's verifiable, and from the information I could find online, it doesn't seem verifiable, but we can get into that later. That's just kind of where I'm at with gematria.
Sure, and I guess that debate for somebody who's new and doesn't have any information about this, it might be unclear. Again, for those of us who've been around for a decade, a lot of us are thinking, well, she doesn't know about all the success we've had, but that's okay. Since I wanted to put this up on the screen because the first time you encountered me, one of the first things you said to me is, I bet you think Sandy Hook was a hoax. Wasn't that one of the first things you said to me?
I don't know. This is where it's going to get kind of funny. Well, this part is funny because he's got the Patrick Dragon picture, which is something I actually gave to Zach. And of course, he doesn't give me the credit.
Yes, actually, yeah, I remember that. It is one of the first things I said too.
And then you jumped into coronavirus right after that. You recall?
I believe so. I believe we talked about those things. Yeah.
And I didn't get to show you this because we were on CT's show where he interrupts and reads super chats all the time. But have you ever seen this story before? A first responder to the Sandy Hook shootings has died of COVID-19.
Nope.
So this story was making the rounds January 5th, 2021. So about a year into the supposed pandemic. His name was Patrick Dragon. Yeah. And he just brought up astrology. Do you know what year it was in the Chinese zodiac when Sandy Hook happened?
No.
It was the year of the dragon. Okay?
So, by the way, I'm going to probably fast forward on parts because this is 4 hours long, this debate, and Zach will ramble on and on and on.
And have you ever read my book, Letters and Numbers?
No, I have not.
Or Number Games?
Okay, so this isn't, we just read what is part of a debate, right? So already he's claiming, have you read my stuff? Your stuff is not a credible source of information. So, like, I'm going to do a score sheet, actually. That's not, it's not credible. Your source is invalid. Alright. So I'm going to score Zach. So whoever gets the most points loses. So bringing up your book, and this is where like somebody like me versus Zach, I would thwomp him. All right, so Zach gets 1. Mooncakes gets so far none. So yeah, bringing up. So then here, I'm gonna try. Your book doesn't count for shit because there's no citations in it. There's no bibliography. There's no index. There's no reference page. You just claim everything and you speak it as it's fact because like when I actually I looked in his book the second time, his second book, I realized, whoa, he doesn't have any citations in this book. How did I not see
that? No.
So this book came out, I was done writing it pretty much in July of 2020. It takes a few months for it to come out, but it came out in October of 2020. And it said, this is October of 2020. It said they will wind down their scam when the year of the tiger comes around. And that's exactly when the scam ended, was when the year of the tiger came around. One of many accurate predictions over the years. But the funny thing about them.
That's not a prediction. So this is where I wanted to help Mooncakes. Like here, I'm gonna an accurate prediction for you to say that a pandemic is going to wind down after 2 years in it, and say for the whole year, and it still didn't completely wind down. It's still kind of going on to this day. People still are being forced to be vaccinated. You know, the TSA and travel has gotten a lot more strict.
Sinking.
But I'm not going to give him a point for it because it's kind of a vague thing.
This story here, Patrick Dragon with Sandy Hook is. Can you see how in the photo how they have him standing next to a license plate and the only number you can see is 56?
Yeah.
This is. Now you might recall the first time I can tell you exactly when the first time we interacted was because I know what happened the very next day. The very next day, Marshawn Neeland was announced dead in the news. And the reason I remember that is because I said to you, I was trying to tell you something about 56 that day. Yeah. And I said, if you pay attention to this 56 number, it's used in high ritual all the time. And the very next day, the 56th pick of the NFL draft was announced dead at age 24. And anyway, this 56 number is largely what this book is written about.
Yeah.
And again, this is the kind of stuff we look at. So I just want you to explain to me why you think this is coincidental.
So
the Sandy Hook School was established in 1956. The shooting happened in 2012, 56 years later.
Yeah.
And this 56 number is very important to the Jesuits, for the Society of Jesus, which is who I say is running the show.
So, that's right there. That's I gotta give him another point on that. Again, whoever gets the most points loses. That's a disingenuous statement right there, because he's just saying without any proof besides what he calls his gematria is the only proof of that the Society of Jesus or the Jesuit order worships the number 56. But he'll also claim they worship 201, they worship 144, they worship 187, they worship 1229, they worship 263, they worship a lot of different numbers. So it's like, how many numbers does it take until you get to the center of the Tootsie Pop?
And the only reason I say they're running the show is because of where my research has led me to. Because I asked myself, if somebody is using this pop, for people who are new here, this whole thing of coding numbers into words comes from Kabbalah. And if you study the history of the Catholic Church, after the...
So I might give him a point here because he just asked her a question. It's already been going on for a minute. Why do you think this is BS? And then he's going on and on and on. He's rambling. You just asked the person who's debating you a question, and then that's when you shut up. And that's when it's their turn, and they have a rebuttal. But this is what Zach does. He'll go on and on and on and on to confuse people.
Crusades, the Templars brought the knowledge of Kabbalah back to the church. In the centuries after, Kabbalah was talked about orally by the ruling class of Europe. That's why most...
That's actually not true. Hold on. So he just made a claim. We're going to look the claim up right now. During the Crusades, the Knights Templar I can already give you the answer on this the top of my head. No, the Knights Templar did not come back. They had Kabbalah. There's millions of Jews living in Europe during this time. Actually, the Jews were some of the top financial advisors for a lot of the kings in all these kingdoms during the Holy Roman Empire time. They went into Muslim territory. Muslims don't do Kabbalah. After Rome took down the Second Temple, the Jews were scattered all over Europe, and this is why a lot of them speak Yiddish. There is no historical evidence that the Knights Templar brought back or practiced Kabbalah during the Crusades. Kabbalah is a system of Jewish mysticism, Jewish mysticism that seeks to understand the hidden aspects of Jewish tradition. So right there, there's no evidence. He's just saying that because he thinks his numbers are. He thinks his numbers is some kind of evidence, and it's just not. You have to have some kind of historical record. So it's another point. So your arguments are wrong because you just say shit. All right. Here's one. What's this? Something Templars.com. Okay. Yeah, this looks like a credible source. Okay. Order of Assassins and Establishment of the Knights Templar. Yeah, there's nothing credible enough to even.
Most Kabbalistic knowledge is not written about. It's passed down through oral tradition. It wasn't ever meant for the common class. It was meant to be knowledge exclusive to the elite. But anyway.
Dude, I mean, I can sit here and fact check this guy over and over and over and over. I mean, he's gonna have a million points before I even can get an hour into this. All right. Study of Kabbalah meant for the elite class. There's probably no evidence. Okay, elite, highly qualified scholars. It was not meant for general population based on social class. Okay, so for much of Jewish history, the study of Kabbalah was shrouded in secrecy because of the esoteric knowledge was considered both powerful and potentially dangerously misunderstood. There's a lot of restrictions. All right, so he kind of was right on that. Yeah, so and you're not elite, so why are you trying? And you don't know anything about Kabbalah, anyway, Zach.
It made its way through the church. If you look into the calendar, we're about to enter the year 2026, and the only reason that we're going to call it the new year in 2026 is because of the Catholic Church. A lot of people don't realize, but
that's another false statement. It's actually because of Rome. So, and I looked that up yesterday. That's wrong. Rome, the Julian calendar, also started a new year this way as well. And that's because of taxes and debts. It's easier to start the new year in January because of taxes and debts. So, another false statement. It was created by Rome.
The calendar is named after the Pope.
Before the church was ever made.
It was implemented by the Jesuit priest Christopher Claudius. The Jesuits are the Society of Jesus. And again, when this nation was being founded, the Jesuits were in suppression. And you had founders like Jefferson and Adams warning that this nation could be subverted if the
I believe this is another false statement. Did Jefferson and Adams warn that the Jesuits could take over America? Okay. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson did express significant apprehension, even alarm, about the restoration and potential influence of the Society of Jesus, fearing their secretive, hierarchical nature could undermine American religious liberty and Republican principles. Adams, fearing they'd operate as swarms of them here in many disguises as only a king of gypsies can assume. Jefferson agreed, seeing the return as a step backwards from light into darkness. Though both respected in the U.S. system of religious freedom that guarantees their asylum, in 1816, Adams wrote to Jefferson about the late resurrection of the Jesuits, expressing dislike for their return, particularly after 1814. Universal restoration by the Pope, stating if ever there was a body of men who merited eternal damnation on earth and in hell, it is the Society of Loyolas. Notes to the week of an American magazine. He worried that they'd appear in various disguises, printers, writers, schoolmasters, to challenge American principles. Jefferson shared Adams' negative view, calling the Jesuit restoration a retrograde step from light to Despite their strong criticism, both men upheld the American ideal of religious freedom, acknowledging that the U.S. system required them to grant Jesuit refuge, even while fearing their potential impact on elections and public purity. So, remember, during this time, America was very anti-Catholic, and it's been very anti-Catholic for a while, just because of how powerful the church always was and how oppressive it used to be, and that soon long after this, anyway, I believe the fall of the Holy Roman Empire began. So the Jesuits' influence really is because they don't want they don't want to have one religion again. They want to have multiple religions and different ideas. That's it. It has nothing to do that they're going to secretly take over America and they're going to be the mustache twirling individual. So I won't give Zach a point against him on that one, but he's still rambling. He's been going on for about 5 minutes, and Mooncakes has barely talked. So every time Mooncakes talks, I'm going to put in a note. And I'm going to put for how long. So this is 33 minutes and 54 seconds in, and Zach started at 28 minutes.
Jesuits ever came out of suppression, and as history went on, the capital was moved to where the Jesuits set up camp in Washington, D.C., which for the record equals 56. Not to mention, from the very beginning, this 56 number has been with the country. There's 56 signers on the Declaration of Independence. But
how many signers on the Declaration of Independence. A total of 56 delegates from the 13 colonies signed the Declaration of Independence. Though not all at once, most signed the engrossed parchment copy on August 2nd, 1776, while others added their names to risk their lives. All right, 56 signers. Okay. And I still won't give him a point for against him for this, even though you need to give your source. Why is there? So his reason is because it's Jesuits. But Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, and he later warned that the Jesuits are evil, bad people, right? So why would they have 56 signers if he's already aware of Jesuits and their numbers? Doesn't that's a contradiction right there? So I'm going to give him a point that he just contradicted himself, and I don't think Mooncakes doesn't see that because it's not like she can pause the video like me and shut him up. 56 delegates signed the Declaration of Independence because they represented the 13 colonies, collectively pledging their lives, our fortunes, and sacred honor to declaration separation of Britain, knowing it was an act of treason punishable by death, but driven them. So there's really no who was the only Catholic signer. So there's one Catholic, Charles Carroll of Carrollton, was a Roman Catholic. So there's only one person that signed the that was Catholic, and you claim that Jesuits and Catholics. So this is an arbitrary number that he can use, but he unfortunately just contradicted himself, saying that Jefferson and Adams warned about Jesuits. Wouldn't Jefferson and Adams, who signed their names on here, and Jefferson, who wrote it, wouldn't they know? Wait, the 56. This is something. This is sinister. This is some Jesuit shit. Despite that, it was like 40-ish years later when the Jesuits finally got out of their suppression. It was like 1814. So this was 1776. So there was one Catholic. Why would that be Jesuit? Explain that. So that's a contradiction. That's a point against you, Zach.
But anyway, you can see how in gematria, how Society of Jesus and Adam Peter Lanza, which is the full name of the shooter, they both equal 56, correct?
Okay, so you have he's done Lanza, Adam P. Lanza, and Adam Peter Lanza. So that's 16 different ways that you can get some kind of number. So, I mean, I'm not going to do the probability of it. I'm not going to gematria either.
Yes, but there's...
All right. So, Mooncakes 3422 to...
There's something that I want to address, and I think this is where I'm very careful. So, am I aware of gematria being used? Yes, I did actually quite a bit of research on this. And that initially, gematria wasn't used as a way to verify information in the way that we're speaking. It was used as a way to infer about symbolic traditions, right? That's how it was initially supposed to be used. Now, I went through gematria itself, and I saw there was simple gematria, which is the one that you said you used, correct? The A equals 1, B equals 2, everything like that. And I noticed there was a lot, like tons of different types of gematria. And I guess my first question to you would be, how do you decide which code of gematria to use?
So that That's a good question right there. Mooncakes from 34:22 to 35:05. Not even 1 minute. And asked a pretty legit question. Which gematria, she should have been a little bit more specific. Which gematria cipher do you get to dictate is what is being used for XYZ? And who gets to determine the usage of it? Where are the laws of physics? It's kind of like the questions. What are your laws of your experiment?
Well, I learned about them as a system within one book, The Secret Teachings.
So, and I'm going to give him another point against him because he didn't learn this in Secret Teachings of All Ages, because gematria is not mentioned in English at all in that book. So Zach starts at 35:05. We'll see how long he rambles on.
All ages. So I look at all four of the ciphers together because so often all
they're not in that book. I literally have the screenshot of the paragraph he's talking about. Pythagorean divination is not gematria. It would be called gematria.
For the ciphers, which are the alphabetic order, the reverse alphabetic order, and both orders with numerology applied, so often all four ciphers are part of the ritual. That happens day after day in the news cycle. So I don't see them as separate and you should use one here or there. It's the system.
But that's not how it was initially used.
All right. So 33. So Mooncakes 35, 33 to...
And when I was reading online, they would choose one system and they would apply that one system to whatever they were trying to refer about. They typically didn't...
Who is this that you're talking about? Because I know...
So, didn't get 10 seconds. 35, 42. 35, 42...
In Hebrew, they decode their alphabet with 14 different ciphers in Hebrew, which is common practice.
No, I believe it's more ciphers than that. This is where cuts comes in handy. How many ciphers in English gematria? Or it means Hebrew. It's 22. So wrong. Yeah, I knew because I believe I remember Cuts going over this a few times. So yeah, there's 22. There's not 14. So that's another wrong one. I don't know why he brought. I think he brought that 14 up for. He's going to do some fraud with that number, I believe.
And it's actually referred. I'm referring to Hebrew as well, is that they tend to use one select code. Though, like, people may select a different one, they tend to select one to use that. If that makes sense of what I'm trying to say.
That's why you need a rabbi. You can't just declare this is how it works. So far, she's only at 10 seconds.
So that's why I'm questioning why it is you choose what you're doing now is 4 different codes of gematria in order to decipher.
Make it a habit. A 10-minute AI routine every morning. You'll be unrecognized.
Well, here, just to make a point.
All right, 36:11. Just to make a point. All right, you get 3 minutes on your point, and then I'm going to ding you.
Point. Here, I'm just going to put up Gavin Newsom and coronavirus.
Yeah.
And the reason I do that is because Gavin Newsom, he's Jesuit educated, went to Santa Clara, and he was the first governor to lock down his state. And when he locked down California, he said, I'm locking down California because 56% will get the virus in 8 weeks. And by the time he said that, we were already way into this 56 pairing because we said, wait a minute. You know, you got Cuomo on TV, the 56th governor. You got Anthony Fauci equals 56. It's 56 years since Trump's Jesuit education began at 64. Trump ended up declaring the state of emergency on Friday the 13th. Friday, March 13th, 2020, which was the date of 56 numerology. But anyway, can you see how Gavin Newsom and coronavirus overlap? Can you see how they share 3 of the same 4 numbers?
I mean, sure, but here's the problem, is that gematria doesn't fail when it comes to finding patterns. I agree with you, it does find patterns. But I think that itself is the issue. It finds too many patterns, that it's hard to confirm what is real and what's not.
All right, so he stopped at 3710. And now she's at 37. I mean, this is what's annoying. I gotta keep track of the time because eventually Zach's is gonna fucking go on and on and on. He's gonna end up rambling here soon. I already know it because I know how this guy operates.
There's something that our brains do as humans, right? We love pattern recognition. It's how we fought for survival. The actual name for it is apophenia, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
That's a word that came from a Nazi's time.
So, if you're going to bring up a point, Zach, she's giving you a definition of something. It doesn't matter what their political whatever. This person found a human phenomenon, a psychological human phenomenon. And it just because they're a Nazi scientist, what does that mean? I'm giving you a point. Because you bring up a point, but there's nothing to the point. That doesn't mean anything. There's a definition. And really, really, she should have brought in arithmomania. You're more along with arithmomania.
Just for the record.
Well, okay.
And for the record, I should count how many times he says that. And again,
it doesn't dismiss that this is a real thing, that our brain recognizes, or our brain appreciates pattern recognition, which is what gematria does. And I actually did something today before I came on, and I wanted to see the difference between two words. So I searched up the Titanic, and then I searched up Donald Trump. Initially, it didn't really give me what I was looking for, so I kind of changed it a little bit. I said, okay, we got to switch around these words a little bit. I did Donald J. Trump, and then I did the Titanic. I left it, and I could see where my numbers started connecting. Now, these two things, the Titanic and Donald J. Trump, you'd probably admit have nothing to do with each other. Or do you think using gematria, we would somehow find a connection between these two things?
All right, 3812. So, less than a minute. She presented a point in less than a minute, several times so far. In less than a minute, she brought up a point. That's a good point. She made a good point. Okay, so Donald J. Trump, and I can fudge the way that things are spelled because you have multiple avenues in the Titanic. How can you relate these two things? Because their numbers are the same in your code.
Well, I don't see how there's any relation really with the Titanic and Trump. I could show you something interesting about the day the Federal Reserve was established and the day the Titanic's. Okay,
so that's deflection. So that's another point against you. That's deflecting. He just deflected her question. How come Donald J. Trump and the Titanic have similar numbers? And then you go and you answer a question she didn't ask. That's a deflection. So far, Mooncakes has nothing yet. Zach's already has 9 strikes on him. He's deflecting. He's made up shit. And he's also brought up points that don't have a point in anything. Going against the rules of debating. They went over the rules in the beginning of this video. Go back to the beginning of the video. So far, Mooncakes. There's that time I was thinking about it, but I think for someone who doesn't know too much about this shit like I do, that's still a pretty good question. So what she's trying to get at really is, I can manipulate your system into getting what I want, not numbers wise.
Also, the book that predicted the wreck of the Titanic, called Futility, the Wreck of the Titan, which came out over a decade earlier.
Not find it odd that I was able to, using gematria, with just switching around a few letters or a few words, I was able to somehow find a connection to it.
But you had to do some manipulation to make a connection.
I'm saying that people do that.
Well, actually, it's not, because you used Donald J. Trump and the Titanic. You've done both. So, where I don't know if she knows that. She might not. She probably doesn't. So, she brings a good point. Mooncakes brought a good point right there. If she can manipulate the way someone's name is spelled or pronounced and relate it to another event in time, which is what Zach does.
All the time with gematria. I mean,
well, but here's the thing: we're not manipulating anything, right?
Yeah, you are.
Coronavirus 155. What day did Trump become the father of the jab?
So this is the other thing, and he's about to get a mark against him. This is the other thing that he does. He asks a question that no one will ever know, right? And I mean, is that even a valid statement? Who is father of the COVID vaccine? There's no father of the COVID-19 vaccine. Its rapid development was a collaborative effort built upon decades of research by numerous scientists, because coronavirus has been around for a long time. This one was. I mean, I'm not advocating that I believe in it or not. I'm just stating what is stated, that this one was one of the SARS strains, and that it mutated. But Caitlin Carrico and Drew Weissman were the two that were working in the University of Pennsylvania who modified the mRNA. So, other key contributors, Ugar Cheyenne and Uzlam Teresi, are German biotech company biologists. So, he's talking about Operation Warp Speed. The day was Operation. So there's no definitive proof that Donald Trump is the father of the jab. He didn't make it or nothing. Right? So he's going to Operation Warp Speed. Okay, Friday, May 15th to Wednesday, February 24th. So 285 days. He's not going to mention that. He's not going to mention February 24th was the last day of it, and he's only going to mention the day it started, right? So this is that's not a good point. That's not a good point. And the claim that he's the father of the jab is incorrect. So you're incorrect on that, and then he's about to be incorrect right here.
The father of the what, sorry?
The jab, the father of the Pope.
Oh, do you mean he
calls himself the father of the vaccine. Do you know what day that is?
Did Donald Trump ever claim he's the father of the COVID vaccine? All right, nationalarchives.gov. This is probably President, thank you very much. Thank you. It's beautiful. Blah, blah, blah. No medical breakthrough of this scope in magnitude has ever been achieved this rapidly, this quickly, and we're very proud. Tremendous help from military generals, admirals. Operation Warp Speed is unequaled and unrivaled anywhere in the world. The leaders of the countries have called me to congratulate us on what we've been able to do, and we've helped many countries with their ventilators. And I'd like to congratulate everyone. I'm just going to see if he says that he's the father. $1.95 billion to support the mass manufacturing. Pfizer said it wasn't part of Warp Speed, but that turned out to be unfortunate misrepresentation, as they are part, and that's why we gave them $1.95 billion. And it was an unfortunate mistake that they made when they said that. We will work to secure an emergency use authorization. The average development time for the vaccine, including clinical tests and manufacturing, 8 to 12 years, though Operation Warp Speed we're doing it in less than 1 year. Yeah, a different administration with different people, what we would have done would have taken, in my opinion, 3, 4, 5 years. And it would have been in the FDA forever. This is 5 times faster than the fastest prior vaccine development history. You know that I'm just going through to see if he says he's the father of this thing. This is straight from his mouth. This is all typed out on whitehouse.archives.gov. That's very safe. Blah blah blah. Nice agreement with Eli Lilly. Yeah, why doesn't the quack mention any of these people? AstraZeneca. Oh man. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. But I mean, we got fact check. God, this is a lot. Is there a way? All right. I'm gonna go on Chrome. Look at this, because this way I can just speed this up. All right, find and page. Let's put father. Nothing. So it's not in here. He never called himself the father of the jab. So that's the wrong statement. Okay, and he's going to claim 15/5, which this happened in America. We don't write the date that way, so that's another wrong statement.
That happened.
I do not know what day that happened.
Did it happen on the 15th day of the 5th month?
15th day of the 5th month. I mean,
May 15th. It was Mercuralia, 2020. It was 2 years to the day of the first coronavirus pandemic simulation, called Clade X, which was given 666 days before the pandemic was declared. And again, these things aren't an accident. 666 is taught about within Christianity. And it did follow a Christian theme, what they did, because in Revelation 13, you have to take the mark 666 if you want to buy or sell. And again, you can see that Christianity is also 155, and the 65 goes with the pandemic. For people who don't know, the first pandemic simulation was event, or not the first one, but the second coronavirus pandemic simulation was event 201, which was...
Let's fact check them. How many coronavirus simulations have been done? Oh, no, 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 no. Yeah, you're wrong, Zach. There's the Crimson Contagion earlier in 2019 as well. That was another coronavirus simulation that you just seem to forget. So it wasn't the second one. Actually, in summary, the total number of simulations is in the thousands and not more. All right. So that's another wrong statement. It's not the second one. I remember this one. Hold on, we'll look it up. The Crimson Contagion. Contagion simulation. Which happened, was a joint exercise conducted from January to August 2019. Numerous national, state, and local private and public organizations. The U.S. participated in order to test the capacity of the federal governments and the 12 states to respond to a severe pandemic of influenza originating in China. Yep. So, no, they're wrong again. Hubbard. So that's another one. So far, Zach's already got 13 dings on him, and they're not even a half an hour into this.
Where 65 million people die in the simulation, and the simulation lasted about the same amount of time the actual pandemic supposedly lasted. But if you go back and look at that simulation, it was co-hosted by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the simulation was 65 days from Melinda Gates' birthday.
Give me 20 days. In military calisthenics will make you turn heads.
Melinda Gates comes from a family of Jesuit priests. She has the same birthday as the Jesuit order. And what year did she turn in age? The year of 2020? Well, she turned 56. How old was Bill Gates that year? Well, he was 65. Just on and on and on with these same things. And the other thing is, pandemic, when you run it in reverse, 151. The official story was that the first case of coronavirus outside of China's mainland was in Bill Gates' backyard on the 15th day of the first month, 151, 15th of January. And of course, that's in King County when Corona means brown. And of course, the big needles there across the street from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So again, we're not manipulating things. We're just looking at the way it actually is. And just for the record, Seattle, WA, like right out on an envelope's another big fat 56. The whole pandemic, when you follow this, again, it's just like how they had to tell you the first celebrity with the virus was Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks, while filming the Elvis movie. And what year was Tom Hanks born in? 56. Go ahead.
But this is like throwing.
Okay, so 3814 to 4131. So, yep, that's more than 3 minutes, barely. So I'm not gonna give him a ding on that one, but that was about 3 minutes, and he didn't make any. He pretty much got 5 points against him just in that one rant.
I like a dartboard, and then you're like, "Ooh, we hit a bullseye!" Right? Like anything that you're saying, we can find like as a coincidence, right? I know a lot of people are not going to believe in coincidences. You believe there's meaning to all of this, but with gematria, you can change the spelling. You can use different ciphers, as you admitted. You use 4, right?
What do you mean by change the spelling?
You can add or subtract numbers. You can use dates. You can reverse numbers. You can you kind of stop when you get something that you are looking for. So your brain is already actively looking for something, and that's what we call confirmation bias. I believe you are finding connections through these numbers and these words. However, I think you're taking them as fact when this isn't. There's no way to verify gematria. So, for example, I asked you this question the other day. If I walked into a casino and I said, "Hey, is gematria banned here?" You looked at me and said that they would say yes. I walked into a casino. I can tell you which casino.
No, that's not what I told you.
That's exactly what he said. He said, yes, they will definitely ban you if you use this system in the casino because you will be winning. Now, you can win and win and win as long as you're not cheating. So what you're claiming is that what you're doing is cheating and gambling?
I didn't say gematria is banned here. I said if you win.
And I'm not going to go find the video, and so even though I know for a fact that is exactly what he said.
At the casino, they will ban you.
You told me gematria was banned at the casino, and I walked into Caesar's.
That's not what I said.
You did.
Go back and watch that clip. I'm not going to debate like this. That's not what I said to you. I said, no, you can be banned from a casino for winning feedback. I said, they're not going to ban you from using gematria unless you're winning all.
The casinos banned gematria. I asked the man at Caesar's Palace. He looked at me like I was living in another planet. He said, what is gematria?
That's not what I said to you. You should go back and watch that clip if that's what you think I said, but that's not what I said.
If you have this way to verify numbers, if you could do all this, why wouldn't a casino ban gematria?
Because not everyone can use it properly.
But they still can.
All right, so a little less than 2 minutes. So the question was, why wouldn't a casino ban gematria? And the answer is because not everyone can use it properly. I mean, dude, how is that an answer? That's not what she asked. That's not a reason. Well, not everybody knows how to use a gun accurately, but you're not allowed to bring a gun into a bank. Not everybody knows how to use a gun accurately, but I mean, we still have a Second Amendment. That's a shit answer, but it's an answer, so he doesn't get a point against him for that. But right now, Zach's got 13 points against him. Mooncakes doesn't even have a point yet against her. I think she's going to get some. I'm going to have to give her one here later.
To use this correctly.
Because they've been counting cards, so when
a guy just called into my stream the other day and he said, I figured out that Jets equals 9, so I thought the Patriots or the Jaguars, whatever team he said, were going to stay on 9 wins versus the Jets, and I bet a lot of money on that, and I lost a lot. And I said to him, it's not about staying on numbers. If you're in my community, picking up numbers is what you want, not staying. And he goes, but had they won, they would have been 9-9 against each other in the series, and Jets equals 9. And I said, that's also an arbitrary point. It doesn't matter what their series record is. He doesn't know how to use the knowledge right. So, just like
yeah, but because there's no formula, you don't have a formula. There's not some kind of concrete mechanism that you have, because you definitely would say something like that. Because you do use it like that.
I said to you the other day, they're not going to ban somebody for using gematria, and they'll ban you if you're consistently winning. They do ban people from casinos for winning.
They would ban you if you were consistently winning using gematria. Is that what you're saying?
They wouldn't care if you're using gematria or not. They're just going to ban you because they know they're paying out a lot of money to you.
Zach, you told me that they would ban gematria. Gematria could not be used.
That's not what I said.
I wish, you know what, it's my whole problem.
We will follow on video and play the clip back later. The CEO will help you out with that. I'm sure you know that.
I wouldn't lie on you. I wouldn't just say that just to, as a gotcha. But
if you're on CT stream, they did say, no, that's exactly what Zach said. They all said it. They're all like, yeah, Zach said that. And he did. But, you know, this was over a week ago, so.
I'm from it, but they told me, no, we don't know what you're discussing. And I just find it interesting that if it was so verifiable, if it was so correct in its nature, why wouldn't they get it? Not only that, my next question would be, why don't mathematicians use gematria?
All right. 44. And I'm gonna look this up too. 443. Do mathematicians use gematria? Mathematicians generally do not use gematria as a formal or scientific mathematical practice. And it goes into gematria as a form of numerology in Jewish tradition. It's also pseudoscience from a modern scientific perspective. Gematria is largely considered pseudoscience, akin to astrology being distinct from astronomy. Its results are often viewed as coincidental or the product of confirmation bias. In ancient times, the lines between what we now call mathematics and practices like gematria or geometry were blurred. In early Jewish sources, the term gematria may have originally referred to geometry or general calculation methods. Jewish mathematicians in medieval Spain, for example, used Hebrew letters as numerals, but it was a system of notion, not mystical interpretation in a professional setting. Mainstream math. Professional mathematicians use rigorous methods involving axioms, definitions, lemmas, and theorems to solve problems in various fields like engineering, physics, and economics. These methods rely on universal logic and empirical verification. Principles that are fundamentally different from the symbolic or spiritual significance assigned by gematria. Okay, so let's see if there's any credible sources. There's probably not going to be. Because it's just not a heavily researched study with math. Yeah, there's this. There's no. So okay, so that's a legit question because I can't find anything that's regarded as anything legit.
Why is it
How do you know they don't?
practice? I googled this. They don't use gematria.
Here, so that's a deflection. Deflection is a point against you, Hubbard. You deflected. You asked, why don't mathematicians not use gematria? Why in the fuck would they use this? They don't use your gematria bullshit. They don't use Hebrew language because you don't have a definition of English gematria. It doesn't exist. I can't find it. So, you know, that's a deflection. She asked you, why don't they? And you responded with a question. That's not how you debate. How are people saying like Zach won this debate? Are you fucking retarded? He's deflected several times. He's lied. He exaggerated a couple of historical events. I mean, this guy does not know what he's talking about.
Petitions do not use.
So everything Google says is true?
I mean, you're using Google right now, right? You just Googled to show me a story. Should I not think that's true because it was on Google?
Oh, what, you can
She got you there, dude.
use Google to find stories. It doesn't mean everything Google says is correct. Google says the National Fixed League isn't fixed. It's totally fixed.
Of course.
Yeah. Google isn't, because how I can agree is probably is fixed or rigged in some way, but you can't prove it. And this isn't how you prove it. You're not proving it by your quackology.
But then if we're using that same thing that you're saying, then how do I believe gematria is real? How do I believe anything is real?
Well, nothing I'm saying is based on, I'm not saying that it's real because Google said this in the search. Here.
Well, she asked you, so you need to provide evidence. Show what mathematician, what mathematical career, architecture, engineers uses gematria. Your quackology version.
Go back to something, I remember something you asked me. You said, well, isn't coronavirus just the SARS virus? And I said, it's interesting that you bring that up because I said, look at what it says about SARS, about where it.
So you didn't even answer her question. I mean, I already dinged him on it, so okay. He's about to probably do another rant here. My pen's running out of ink. 45:30. All right. He starts on 45:30.
Begins to die at. And I said, isn't it interesting that it even begins to die at 56 degrees Celsius? Now I remember how you started to respond.
That I'm about to ding him right here. One, a virus is a non-living thing. What temperature does SARS begin to die at? Okay, so well, we'll do the first SARS, so the one in the 2000s. Yeah. Okay, transmission, prevention, treatment. That doesn't make sense because, okay, here, National Institute of Health. Okay, the main route of transmission of SARS-CoV infection is presumed to be respiratory droplets. However, the virus is also detectable in other bodily fluids and excretions. The stability of the virus at different temperatures and relative humidity on smooth surfaces were studied. The dried virus on smooth surfaces retained its viability for over 5 days at temperatures 22 to 25 degrees Celsius and relative humidity 40 to 50%. That is typical air-conditioned environments. However, virus viability was rapidly lost at higher temperatures and a higher relative humidity, 38 degrees Celsius, and relative humidity of 95%. The better stability of SARS coronavirus at low temperature and low humidity environment may facilitate transmission in community and subtropical areas such as Hong Kong during the spring and in air-conditioned environments. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. We and others have reported that infectivity of SARS-CoV was lost after heating at 56 degrees for 15 minutes, but that it was stable for at least 2 days. Okay. Now this is SARS-CoV-1. Okay. Now we're going to look up SARS-CoV-2. The virus does not have a single death point, but rather a range where its viability is rapidly diminished over time. Right. Around 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, the virus loses most of its infectivity within 1 to 2 days. 40 degrees Celsius, significant reductions in viral viability are often observed, with the half-life reducing to a few hours on surfaces. 56 degrees Celsius, a 4-log reduction of coronavirus can be achieved with approximately 15 minutes of exposure. 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit, the virus is almost completely killed after about 20 minutes. 70 degrees Celsius or higher, this temperature is highly effective in quickly killing SARS-CoV-2 within 5 minutes. And I believe these are actually like standard temperatures that they use, because they're using water boiling points and boiling, yeah, because 40 degrees Celsius, I believe it is boiling point of water, and 37 degrees Celsius is your body's average temperature, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But it actually becomes ineffective. His claim is it starts at 56 degrees Celsius. No, it becomes more ineffective at 37 degrees Celsius. That's another wrong claim. And 2, you can't kill a virus. It's a non-living thing.
If your farts stink, your face is puffy, you wake up feeling like you have horrible sugar cravings, your skin keeps breaking out, and you have zero...
Here, I want to go back to something. I remember something you asked me. You said, well, is it coronavirus just the SARS virus? And I said, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I said, look at what it says about SARS, about where it begins to die at. And I said, isn't it interesting that it even begins to die at 56 degrees Celsius? Now, I remember how you started to respond. What you started to say after that, you're like, well, it would also die at 57 degrees, 58, 59, 60. I said, well, that's true, but the starting point is 56 degrees. Just like, it's like saying, where does water begin to melt? And I say, well, what we learn is right about 33 degrees, 30.
Did you just say what temperature is water that begin to melt? What an idiot.
Use the freezing point in Fahrenheit. If I start to go, yeah, well, maybe 33 is not that significant because it also melts at 34 degrees. It's like, okay, but that's still, we're talking about the point where things turn.
Well, like I said, I mean, this, in my...
But you're going from Fahrenheit to Celsius now. It would be 0 degrees Celsius would be the freezing point of water.
opinion, from what I can see, this is all coincidence, and that's why I go
Okay. So that was only 30 seconds.
back to being able to verify this information. If we're struggling, and I genuinely tried to do some research on gematria, like I spent a couple of days looking everything up, that there is no way to disprove or prove gematria, and that becomes an issue, right? This is why mathematicians don't use it. It's why it's not used in our daily lives, and I give you the comparison to astrology. And it's why I ask you questions about why, the casinos don't ban it, or why, things of that nature. But this is just pattern recognition for our brains. We like finding connections. And I think what we're doing right now is finding connections within the number 56, for example. Nothing you're showing me is like hard proof that gematria can be used in like a day-to-day style or day-to-day life. That's the issue I'm finding. There's no way to verify this.
Okay. So again, I just want you to think about things like this. This image is put out, right? And understand, my book was already out. There's so many 56 rituals they did in the first.
Your book is not a credible source of information at all.
Year of what we'll call Cooties 19. This story comes out about 6 months after I've already finished writing this book, and there's been a million more things since. But again, I'm just telling people in the book, pay attention to how they keep putting this 56 number in front of your face. And then literally, and remember, the month before this, do you recall that the first vaccinated person in the U.S. was Sandy Lindsay on December 14th, the anniversary of the Sandy Hook shooting? If you don't know that, you can look it up. It was Sandy Lindsay or Sandra Lindsay, she went by both names, vaccinated December 14th, 2012. And see, I wish these things had happened. I almost waited. I wish I had six more months to write this book, but I want to get out early to tell people why they shouldn't get the Pope. And again, I was 1,000,000% correct about that as well.
And this is where I would when he gets done rambling, like, but you're married to a pharmacist, so were you advocating for her removal of
twin sisters that I used to live next to in Seattle? One's now dead and the other one's on her deathbed, and the sister who's still living, she's convinced that the reason they're dying is because they got the shots. And I think anyone with the brain realizes that that's why those things were given out. Again, as I educated about, most people don't know, almost a year or almost 10 years to the day of cooties showing up in Bill Gates' backyard was when he gave his address, his TED Talk called Innovating to Zero, saying that we need to reduce the world's population to solve climate change. And he gives a list of ways we can reduce population. And his number one way to reduce population is with vaccines. Anyone can look that up. 2010, almost 10 years to the day of cooties showing up in his backyard. His list of ways to reduce the world's population, number one.
By the way, Bill Gates is, I believe, from New Mexico. He's not from Seattle. But whatever. One of his Microsoft headquarters is there, which sweet lady's foster mother has worked at doing AI.
With vaccines. So again, that's the real reason this book was put out. And again, his wife just happened to turn 56 on the Jesuit Order's birthday in 2020, along with a lot of other celebrities who were connected to the virus. They all just happened to turn 56 that year, including Jeff Bezos.
49
the mainstream reported that 56 new billionaires
is already over 2 minutes
in 2020 because of coronavirus. But
here's my question, Zach. Can you predict anything for me right now? Like, can you predict something?
This is a great question. So he's about to get another. He's about to get another strike. I mean, how many more strikes can you get, Zach? You're already at 15, and I've been generous.
Who's gonna win the Super Bowl?
We can predict a lot of things. See, and the thing is, Mooncakes is laughable to ask me to predict things because I predicted a million things over the years. I don't need to predict any more things.
This is a debate. This is a debate. So you have a predictive model. So this is going to be asked. And it is asked to literally everyone he debates. Make a prediction. And he's like, I don't need to do it anymore. But then what's the point of doing your fucking code if you're not going to use it for what you claim is used for? We're going to go 10 more minutes through this, and I'm going to end this stream.
Can you do this one thing for me? Can you just predict it? Can you just
do me this favor? Just go back and watch a $1 billion worth prediction. Go back and watch my video from the day that Netanyahu came back into power. See, again, Mooncakes, here's a book from the middle of 2020.
Okay, he keeps bringing up his book. He keeps bringing up something that's... Why don't... No, she asked you the question. The debate is you defending your gematria. You have to bring the evidence. The burden of proof is on you, Zach. That's another ding. Avoiding evidence. You bring up that video. You show it. You're the one that has the claim. She's not. She's the one challenging you, and you keep diverting. You are deflecting. Each time you deflect, that's a point against you. Mooncakes hasn't even gotten a point against her. She will get one.
They're going to wind down the pandemic when the year of the tiger comes around. Exactly what they did. Not to mention, you guys, they ended the pandemic right after Super Bowl 56. Don't forget, Super Bowl 56.
What day did the coronavirus pandemic end? Ended in May of 2023. Over here. Thursday, May 11th. May 5th. More 3 years since COVID-19 was designated a pandemic, the WHO declared an end to the global public health emergency for COVID. Following an initial announcement earlier this year, the U.S. Department of Human Health Services declared the same for the United States effective on May 11th, 2023. So May 11th of 2023, it was, yeah, we'll just go with May because there's 2 different days. Super Bowl 56 day. Sunday, February 13th, 2022. So the pandemic was officially undeclared in May of 2023. Wrong again. So we're at 5, 10, 15. He's got 18 total claims that are incorrect or diverting the questions.
6 ends, and all of a sudden the pandemic's over. Remember, the NFL was the only league they didn't have to put on pause. They didn't have to lock down the NFL for cooties. They couldn't disrupt the NFL. It's too important here. It's one of the biggest industries in America.
I've noticed that, for example, when I tell you to predict something, right?
Because it's just so annoying. It's like, do you have any correct?
It's annoying. This is a debate, you stupid fucking twat. Predict something. That's your fucking spiel, is it not?
Predictions I have. Do you know how many futures?
I'm asking for one, right? If you're like, hey, you know what? This thing works.
Andrew Wilson asked me to make a prediction for him. You know what? That prediction was 1,000,000% correct. I told him that Trump's policies were going to lose a lot of jobs in America this year.
There wasn't that many jobs that were lost. If anything, I looked that up too. It was like 300,000. He said 4.7 million.
Just came out the other day saying we lost over 1 million jobs because of Trump's new policies this year.
Well, Zach, those are things that
you see Andrew Wilson addressing that we made a correct prediction?
The point is, things we can easily infer using information we find online.
Right. To me, hold on. You have to understand how irritating it is to have a 12-year resume of correct predictions. But like I said, you can go watch the video that's timestamped from December 29th, 2022, the day Netanyahu came back into power, saying that they're going to start a major war in Israel right around the time of Yale's 322nd birthday. The war began 2 days before Yale's 322nd birthday. Again, I don't need to make any more predictions.
Zach, the Jamaica.
That's a deflection. I already dinged him on it, so I'm not going to give him another ding. You are trying to... You see how he always avoids this question? He always avoids it. He's been avoiding it for years and years. And you know, when he debated Jim Bob, they asked him the same thing. This was like in 2019, 2020. For 9 years, I've been making predictions. I don't need to make it anymore. So he's been diverting this question for a while now.
It only works after the events happen. That's when you'll go into a diatribe and go,
hold on. How can I listen? When you come to a debate, you should actually do some research, because you can't say it only happens after. We have 1 million correct predictions.
No, you are on the fence. You have to. The burden of proof is on you, Zach.
So give me a prediction right now. I'm asking you nicely.
I don't need to give any more predictions.
Well, you just lost this argument right here. You lost this argument. You've lost 2 arguments already.
The chat, how many more futures this year? Did we nail March Madness again? Did we nail the...
You can't be asking the chat either in a debate. Let's go back over the rules of debate. He who asserts must prove in order to establish an assertion. The team must support it with enough evidence and logic to convince an intelligent but previously uninformed person. So Mooncakes is a previously uninformed person, and she asks Zach to make a prediction using his gematria model. And he must prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, because the burden of proof is on Zach. He's the one defending the gematria, not Mooncakes. Okay. And the facts must be accurate. He's been very inaccurate with a lot of his facts, or very, he's exaggerated them. All right. In the question period, so Mooncakes is the questioner, the questioner may ask fair, clear questions that have a direct bearing on the debate. That's a direct, fair question. The question may use the period to build up any part of their own case, to tear down any part of their opposition. The questioner must confine themselves to questions and not make statements, comments, or ask rhetorical questions. Each speaker is questioned as soon as they conclude their constructive speech. The witness must answer the questions without consulting their colleagues. Ask the people in the chat. They're not debating me. I'm debating you. This guy is being wrecked in the debate. Like, I'm everything in a debate. These are things that he's doing wrong. That's why I'm marking him. He's already got 19 things that he's done that are against debates.
Derby again? Did we nail the Masters again? We've hit 6 of the last 7 Masters courses.
You need to prove that. Show the video. Show your evidence. You can't just say, well, we nailed it.
Did we nail the college football championship again this year?
How is she supposed to know that? She's an uninformed questioner. You're supposed to bring the evidence. You're not bringing in the evidence. You're just saying shit.
Did we nail the World Series again this year? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need to nail
in real time. You can prove me wrong in real time. If you give me a prediction and it matches, I will.
Do you see people coming back from the Andrew Wilson debate and going, hey, Zach, you got it right. Your prediction was right. No, that doesn't happen. So, again, that doesn't need to be done. What I want you to address is what's right here in front of your face.
Okay.
What are the odds after a book detailing 1,056 rituals in 2020 for coronavirus? Not to mention a decade earlier, I talked about 56 in Sandy Hook, for them to bring it together. And again, here you are saying, I think astrology's flimsy too. They're going to tell you this guy's name is Patrick Dragon when Sandy Hook happened in the year.
No, Sandy Hook happened in 2008. So you said you mentioned this in 2015.
Sandy Hook happened in 2012.
Okay, a decade ago, still that'd be 2015. We're in 2025. So you still talking about the event after.
Okay, the point is, Sandy Hook.
I have an IQ of 137. Why do I forget what I've just read before I even finish?
Person 4 Cooties 19 was.
So I am going to give her a ding on that one. That's he's just rounding up. He's not going to say, well, 13 years ago.
Sandy Lindsay on the anniversary of Sandy Hook. But then they want to give you this story a month later with this guy standing next to a license plate with only 56 showing. What would be the odds of that?
I don't know.
And then we look at the facts. We look at who the supposed shooter was of Sandy Hook, Adam Peter Lanza, whose name just happens to equal 56, for the school that was established in 56, meaning the shooting happened 56 years after its establishment. You can see the way Society of Jesus, Patrick Dragon, Adam Peter Lanza all line up. And if you think the Society of Jesus thing is flimsy, well, remember, the Jesuits, aka the Society of Jesus, they operate in 112 countries, and all of the media had to tell you that Adam Lanza weighed 112 pounds. a needless detail, but then you look at it and you're like, oh, I see why they're saying he weighs 112 pounds, because all of this is just Kabbalistic by the numbers BS. Sandy Hook equals 112. Adam Lynn's birthday's April 22nd, which is the 112th day of the year. His initials are A, which is 1, L, which is 12. They compared this to the Dune.
Okay, so there's that confirmation bias that Mooncakes clearly states. I'm not cheap because I don't know why my shower takes a long time to get warm. So I'm gonna get my shower going because I'm about to end this stream here. We have about 5 more minutes left. So make sure you take a shower here.
Plain Massacre, which got gun rights taken away in the UK, which happened on March 13th, 96. 3 plus 13 plus 96, 112. I mean, it's mathematics, right? 1 plus 1 is 2. And what mathematics equals 112? Again, all is.
What does mathematics have? The instant. There's no mathematics. Mathematics, they already explained what mathematics is. So we'll define mathematics again. The definition of mathematics is abstract science of number, quantity, and space. Mathematics may be studied for pure mathematics or is applied to other disciplines such as physics and engineering. That's not what you just said. It's not mathematics. I'm not going to on that.
Equals 112. They're the ones that gave us the calendar and are responsible for standardizing the language and synced it up with their number.
No, all right. So, did the Jesuits standardize the English language? It doesn't make sense to believe they in France. No, the Jesuits not standardizing was standardization in English through general societal shifts, the spread of the printing press, and the publication of dictionary, not through a specific Jesuit initiative. The Jesuits did, however, have a certain education and the study of languages worldwide. Okay. And ratio acute instituto studiorum societas institute. The method and system of studies of the society uses. The ratio studiorum is a document standardized globally influenced system of education. The ratio is a collection of regulations of schools and teachers. That relied on classical subjects, theology, philosophy, language, Greek, and divisions for elementary education, still built upon the classical subjects. There's no language that just, okay, we're all going to gather together, standardize language. And that's, that's not how it. I should have sent us some cards. That's mine actually.
But again, all these 56 have also go with the virus that supposedly this Sandy Hook died from.
Zach, okay, how do I approach this? So here's the problem, okay? The English language, as we know, from A to Z, has 26 words. That literally means there's thousands of words, and basically an unlimited amount of combinations and possibilities. Now, with gematria, it converts.
So I did him on that one, because the Jesuits did not standardize English. That's completely right. and then claiming that the Bible was written in English, but the first Bible were Hebrew, Aramaic, Pro-Line, and Greek. All 27 books of the Testament were written opposing the language of commerce and scholarship. So
that information into overlapping pages, small numbers, repeated sums. That's why when you compare this vast data that's almost infinite, you're going to find connections that are inevitable. You're going to find connections within the data because you have an unlimited amount of possibilities. Once again, the information is not something verifiable. I understand that this same person died of COVID-19. People die. It doesn't mean that we have to interpret numbers.
What is the odd image put out in the media? Just that 56 showing next to them. What are the odds of that? There's a very specific number about all of the rituals that surrounded this thing.
I think
and a lot of major. This 56 number is not arbitrary.
well, it is arbitrary. That's her whole point. It's very arbitrary because your claim on like the gematria, the claim does not have any factual basis of anything. No proof. So for that to establish itself as a meaning, because you said that was the number 56 mean anything to the judgments. Now, there's no widely known specific judgment doctrine, similar type of number 56. It holds significance in Christian context, particularly solemn things, trusting God with by fear. And numerology is linked to transformation, covenant. So,
this number is important over so many major rituals that they have changed this world.
Rituals are demon.
I think when numbers
God, I hate that. Support this guy.
I think with numbers, whenever we get a number, it feels subjective. So whenever we look at biases, and coincidences happen, we are unable to truly explain. It feels extra good or extra powerful. We're able to say, oh, you know what, gematria was purpose. There's this whole cabal of people who are running the show. And it's why, as gematria, it does something. It's not based in reality, truth, to be honest. Once again, it's astrology. It's fun to say numbers. But that, if I give you two names right now, and you type into gematria out there, you can probably find a connection. You genuinely
let's actually do that. Let's let's look at this list of 20.
Well, I'm gonna cut it right there. Unfortunately, when the time rolls around, it's going to get a kick because that was not going to debunk that. Because if she used what I would say, that how come the letters R and I have the same values in all ciphers, and how many words have R and I. So now, and then other ciphers, the ones with the numerology, 1 through 9, 1 through 9, 1 through 8, third of the whole alphabet's the same. So you increase your chances of getting similar values at the website. And then where is it scientifically documented that English ordinal to reverse reduction, if those two mesh, numbers wise, that means it's like this. Anyway, we'll come back later for part 2.